data journalist Sinduja Rangarajan, who's an investigative, she's from the investigative magazine, Mother Jones. Sinduja, sorry about that. Okay, so you're a data journalist from Mother Jones. You've been looking at figures from all across the world. When you look at the numbers, what stands out to you?
What stands out to me is US has more than 173,000 cases recently, and the rate at which the deaths are doubling is also something that I've been tracking. The deaths have been doubling at the rate of 3 days in the US and the UK, and it's slowed down in Italy. It's around 9 days. So when I talk about the death doubling rate, I'm talking about the number of deaths that double and the number of days it takes for that to happen. And that to me is obviously concerning.
Is there any way to tell when you crunch the numbers, when you look at the data, those more than 1 million infections now, what the real figure might be? Because, of course, there's this issue of so many people not being tested. Ideally, I presume the WHO, when it says test, 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 would like every single living person in the world to be tested to make a determination about whether they can go back freely into society and start to be normal again because they won't get COVID-19 again.
That's a really, really difficult question to answer. I think we've seen a lot of projections everywhere. Recently, I read about a projection which said the virus could kill between 100,000 to 240,000 in the US. There's also new data that suggests that as many as 25% of the infected people may not even show any symptoms, all of which suggests to say that this is a big beast. And like you said, the best option is for everybody in the world to get tested, whether you have COVID-19 or not, and have the test results come back to you within a few hours. But I don't think we're there yet in any part of the country, in any part of the world. And I think that, some of the countries like South Korea, Germany, Australia have been doing more tests than per capita than some of the other countries. But, and China and South Korea and some of these countries have been able to slow down the pandemic. But I don't think I have any real figures or projections in terms of how big or massive this is, because precisely the thing that you pointed out, we're not testing as many people. We're not even testing people who have mild cases of COVID. In different parts of the world, the testing criteria is pretty stringent. Sometimes you only get tested if you know for sure you were in touch with somebody who was confirmed to be positive, which I think is a very stringent criteria.
If you're a data journalist, sorry. No, carry on, please.
I just wanted to say that you also have to test for people who probably have antibodies, who probably didn't show symptoms, but are still probably carrying the virus and are probably immune to the virus. So there's a lot of unknowns here that we don't know, and we're not doing enough testing anywhere.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's well over a week since the British Prime Minister Boris Johnson said that an antibody test that was supposed to be available soon, and it's still not. He said it would be a game changer as far as he was concerned for fighting COVID-19 here in the UK. I was going to say, as a data journalist, do you look at some countries and think, actually, there's almost no point in incorporating the figures from those nations into the international statistics, because I'm a little bit suspicious of what's happening in terms of the numbers. It would be almost plain that with 1.3, 1.4 billion people, that India, if it was following the trajectory of every other country, would have far more. Let me just look down at this Johns Hopkins website. That India would have more than 2,500 infections. For goodness sake, more than 1 billion people live there. Many people think that in Russia, someone, whether it's the government or not, is suppressing the official figures. But just as a data journalist, I'm not asking for a political analysis of what might be happening in those two countries that I've just used as an example. But for the statistics and the data, would you look at some countries and think it's not right to put them into my figures?
Again, a very difficult question to answer. I think we're all struggling with this problem across different countries. And I think so much of this and so much to learn will actually come past than right now. I think we're all making a lot of projections. Journalists are making a lot of projections. Epidemiologists are making a lot of projections. Data scientists and people with any background in data, everyone's focused on this one problem. But I don't think anyone's, and so obviously some sources are much more reliable than others, but I don't think anyone's gotten to this point of, knowing what's right and what's absolute, because there's so much to consider and so many factors and variables. And like you said, the virus is mutating. We're learning something new every day. Certainly about the countries you've pointed about, I've wondered about India. I've wondered about some other countries, and I know that lack of testing or the extreme lack of infrastructure to handle something like this in such a scale could be a factor. But then I think there are so many other factors to consider as well, including, what's the resistance to such a virus in some of these countries versus others. And I have family in India, so it seems like there's just so much unknown, that I can conclusively say the numbers are low because there's not enough tests, or if actually the virus is at its very early stages and hasn't escalated yet as much as compared to other countries.
Sinduja, very much appreciate your time. Thank you so much. From Mother Jones Magazine, Sinduja Rangarajan.